All right. So we're back with another episode of Life on the Ave. Welcome back. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is episode 90 and I'm here with good friend Becca Stern. I don't know how we've waited this long to get you on. I was with her this weekend and I was like, how have we not had you on? Patrick actually thought that you've been on.
Really?
Yes. So it feels like you've been on, but you haven't. So I'm so honored to have Becca
I'm
here.
excited.
We actually call Becca Black Dog Becca. I think that's what you're in my phone as.
Probably.
So Becca is the owner of Blackyard Behavior and Training. She's been on Charlie Trends before. She's been on Garmin Group before, but this is her first time on the pod. So thank you for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'm going to go into your bio and I'm a little nervous to read your bio because you have so many certifications. So bear with me as I through, but as I try not to like stutter on all your amazing certifications. You're a boss, you know what. So
Thanks.
Quick jump into your bio and so excited to have you. So owner and lead trainer Becca Stern is a certified professional dog trainer, knowledge assessed through the Certification Council of Professional Dog Trainers, a shelter behavior affiliate through the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants, and a fear-free certified professional through the Fear-Free Pets. In 2014, she began her career working on the front lines of animal welfare at a shelter in Dublin, Ireland, and from there quickly became a leader in the field. Her experience includes work as the director of adoptions for an open admissions shelter in Washington, D.C., averaging 5,000 adoptions a year, followed by her role as director of operations for the Brandywine Valley SPCA, and finally overseeing adoptions, foster, intake, and rescue programs at ACCT Philly. During her work, she balanced her time between hands-on work with the animals and spearheading program initiatives. As a fierce advocate for animals and the people who care for them, she placed particular focus on open adoption philosophies in shelter behavior modification and enrichment and post-adoption support programs. Merging her behavior certification with her extensive animal welfare background, she continues helping individuals and animals in her community through shelter consulting and training support for owned and adopted dogs. Services range from basic manners to more complex behavior needs with a focus on reactivity, fear, anxiety, and select aggression cases. She has a special place in her heart for shelter dogs and welcomes clients of all breeds, ages, and sizes. And you have your own spot for Black Dog Behavior Training now, right?
Sure do. And I just have to say, you did so good getting through that.
I tried.
It really is word and letter salad.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
But you earned all of that. Like, amazing.
Thanks.
You have so much to be proud of. Women-owned business, own your own real estate, growing seems so rapidly. Let's start at the beginning. How did we get here? Let's take us back.
Well, it all started in 1992 at Crozier Chester Hospital.
90s babies. Here we are.
I think I don't think a lot of people as children are like, I want to work in animal welfare because what is that industry term even? But I was always really into animals as a little kid. And so I kind of was like, I want to be a vet.
Yep.
I want to work at the zoo. So something animal focused. It was just kind of part of my soul and always has been. And I was actually a competitive figure skater for 15 years.
So cool. What a wild, two worlds.
I know. I definitely have a lot of odd little worlds with my feet and all of them.
Not odd, cool.
Cool, thank you. And I do definitely think being a competitive athlete in that field, particularly in that sport particularly, all competitive athletes know what it takes to be at an elite level, but skating in particular is just really, really intense. And I do kind of credit a lot of, I think, you mentioned my business has grown really quickly. I credit a lot of my drive to just what I was conditioned to do when I skated. But where that kind of led me to animal welfare, so where's the connect? When I stopped skating, I was a little bit lost. It's still very hard for me to talk about not continuing my career in skating. And so I went to college and I kind of, not that I didn't have a direction, but I wanted to deviate a little bit. I didn't want to be defined by skating anymore. I thought maybe I wanted to go into sports psychology. And I majored in anthropology and biology. And I was like, okay, that's kind of like a nice harken back to my animal interests, my social, cultural interests, and I feel like I'm disconnecting from the skating world and from the sports world and that kind of intensity that I lived for 15 years. So through that, I went to American University in DC. They had a really cool internship program, which was a working internship. So I wanted to do study abroad, but I didn't want to just take traditional
Dumb classes. Yeah.
And
the study abroad classes are always so dumb.
Yeah. And I also was like, okay, if I'm going to go live in another country,
Yeah.
I don't want to just be taking classes with American students that I would otherwise be in class
at home. Yeah.
And I didn't want to miss a whole semester of school. So it was a summer internship program. And this is truly, it was kind of like I really think it was fate. I don't know if we believe in that.
It is, yeah.
I had kind of forgotten how much I loved animals. You grow up, you kind of forget what was really true to your core as a little kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, this internship program is really cool. They ask your major, your interests. I was also a dancer in college to kind of supplement like needing to move my body without skating.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm an anthropology major. I'm a bio minor. I dance. Most people at AU were like, I'm in poli-sci. I'm in international development. So they were like, oh, we don't really have any internship placements that like make any sense.
Yeah.
We do have an animal shelter. And I was like, sold.
Done. Sign me up.
Yeah. They were like, it's the furthest commute. You have to take multiple buses. It's out in the, it's not really the sticks, but it's far out of Dublin city center. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So
Off the beaten path.
I just did it. And
yeah, you just said yes.
It's one of the best choices I've ever made.
Wow.
I was living in DC at the time, obviously. It was between my junior and my senior year of college.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. So I got back, to do my senior year. And when I was graduating, I was looking for jobs and I was kind of like, you know what? Like that was the happiest I've been in a really long time.
Right.
Let me see if there's any shelters around here. I applied at the time it was Washington Humane Society, which was the animal control, DC Animal Care and Control Facility. And it now has a new name, and it has a new name through a merger that I worked through. And I started as an adoptions counselor, like frontline minimum wage employee doing adoptions
living
all
in
day.
DC.
Living in DC. I was working at bars at the same time.
Yep. Got to pay rent. That rent could not have been cheap.
Got to pay rent, 150 roommates and living in a Harry Potter closet. Definitely I've been through it. But
DC's not cheap.
Yeah. So I started as an adoptions counselor there. And then I was at, it's now called Humane Rescue Alliance. I was there for 5 years and I ended up going up to the director of adoptions role.
5,000 adoptions a year?
At the time, average, yeah.
So how many is that a day?
So they had, their operations have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the time they had two adoption centers. And so the primary one was the Animal Care and Control building.
Okay.
We could do anywhere on a busy weekend day, 20 adoptions, especially if we were doing like a promo or something.
Yeah.
At our Clear the Shelters events, which is again also changed a little bit, but it's an NBC kind of pushed event every summer. It's been going on for a long time. We would do over 230 adoptions a day between multiple buildings.
Yeah.
But that's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of animals, obviously, but it's a lot of people. Because if like mom and dad, kid come in, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of personalities. That's a lot of moving pieces.
Totally.
Wow. So you like dive headfirst into this, I guess, like at that point, like that's high intensity. That's a lot of personalities. That's a lot of people. How long were you in that role?
So when I started as an adoptions counselor in DC, I was probably in that kind of frontline role for, I'm guessing, a year, because I started there in 2014. I was in at the Dublin SPCA in Ireland in 2013. Probably a year, maybe a year and a half, and then went up to a supervisor role, and then I was in the director role for 2.5 years, maybe.
Wow,
so,
that's a long time in DC.
Yeah, I mean, and I went to school there, so I was.
It was home.
Cumulatively, I was there for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what brought you back to Delaware?
Yeah, quite a few things. I obviously financially DC is a tough place to make it.
Unless you want to stay in the Harry Potter closet forever.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I did really like that room.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. You probably miss it.
I miss it a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, look, $500 a month to live in a closet. Probably sounds crazy, but I was like sold. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in.
I'm in. So I needed a change for a variety of reasons. I kind of missed being home. I'm from the area.
Mm-hmm.
I always went to school in Delaware, but I'm from right over the border in Delaware County, and I love Philly. And I was like, I've been at this organization for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've kind of hit where I can go with this unless
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of change what role in operations I was working in, and there just wasn't availability for that. So again, I just kind of I'm very much a Band-Aid rip person.
Yep, same.
I think about these things a lot internally, but I think once I do it, it seems like I'm just
Oh yeah. Once the
doing it.
decision's made, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, full steam ahead.
So
I'm the same way.
I was like, okay, I'm going to move. I had been talking to a shelter up here, took a job, and yeah, I moved. I left DC. My last day at Humane Rescue Alliance was July 3rd, and I moved on July 4th, and I started a new job on July 9th, 2019, which is the other crazy part.
Yeah.
Because then I ended up buying a house here and then leaving my shelter job that I took up here January 2020.
Good timing.
Really.
Great timing.
Such good timing.
Especially when you have a new mortgage.
Yeah, really good choices. No, it ended up working out clearly. But
Clearly, here we are.
Yeah.
So when was Black Dog founded? How do we get to where you're currently at now?
Yeah, so I ended up starting Black Dog officially as far as licensing and everything, and establishing the LLC, November 2020. Another great move on my part, starting a business that requires face-to-face interaction with people during COVID.
But a very needed business.
It was,
Like, people still need that. That doesn't stop.
Right.
Yeah.
And but I went public with everything.
Got it.
January 2021. So I call that my start date.
Got it.
So I was kind of like marinating on the idea. I really love behavior. And I think passively in my studies in college, like there is a behavior aspect to sociocultural anthropology.
Yep.
And obviously I was doing bio as a minor. So there were always these little threads. And then when you're in animal welfare, working in animal shelters, you might not be getting the hands-on experience to learn to become a dog trainer who works with private clients. That's a different kind of bubble.
Yeah.
But you have to learn to understand behavior, body language, safety, defensive handling, with both dogs and humans and also cats. And I'm very into cat behavior too. So I kind of was always really interested in it. It kind of clicked a little light bulb on for me. But for a long time, I didn't want to leave animal welfare. I really love sheltering.
So rewarding.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
It will always probably be my passion, but I do really feel like it's an abusive relationship a little bit.
Yeah, toxic.
I see roles pop up and I'm like, oh, I could do that. And I'm like,
no.
Don't go back.
Big picture.
Yeah. And I'm so happy where I am.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I kind of put this thought of wanting to maybe own my own dog training business on the back burner. A series of events, fortunate and unfortunate, kind of finally gave me the push to do that during COVID, to leave animal welfare permanently-ish and start Black Dog. One of my big kind of like totems in my business is that there is so much more to working with people and animals. I'm going to say animals because, again, there are more pets than just dogs.
That's
but
what
obviously
you're getting paid
it's a dog training company at this time. But there is so much more to working with people and their animals, specifically in this case dogs, than just teaching the dog to do things and teaching the person to do things. And it's not this linear transaction that it looks like on paper. And I really felt like I was almost powerless in animal welfare, even in these, in theory, high-level senior staff roles, to really make large-scale change. It's very hard to see, what's that phrase, like see the forest for the trees or something.
Yeah.
You feel you're in a putting out fires industry.
Right.
And there's so many animal welfare professionals that are some of the biggest badasses I know. They have excellent ideas. They see big picture things. They care about the public, and they just can't get things off the ground because you get to work and there's fires to put out.
You're just whatever's directly in front of your face at that time.
Totally. And we're on the reactive side of things a lot of times, especially in the shelters that I like to work in, which are often high intake, open admissions, which I can talk a little bit more about that. Open admissions, urban shelters. And we're seeing these things like, if only we could get our foot in the door sooner, if only we could get this resource out to people sooner, whether it's through a pet pantry, a vaccine clinic.
And prevent some of these fires.
Totally. Prevent some of these fires. But then we take a larger step back socially and economically, and when humans are in despair and there's socioeconomic disparity and there is racial inequity and there's gentrification, there's so many reasons why dogs end up at shelters. And there's so many things from an outside perspective that I could say, ooh, there would have been a good point for us to step in and help. And I think behavior support is really lacking in that regard compared to those other services that I mentioned that a lot of larger shelters do, pet pantries, vaccine clinics, safe haven programs for domestic violence. There's a lot of really good community-focused programs in animal welfare. I think behavior I think it's changing a little bit. I know and I hope that it continues to change, but I still think it's kind of less of a priority.
Yeah, lower on the list,
So I got to the point in animal welfare where I was like, I'm not helping.
I can't get
anymore.
anywhere. Yeah.
And for a variety of other reasons, it has one of the highest burnout and compassion fatigue rates. And so when you combine those two things together, you're in a caring role for the animals firsthand, and you're kind of in a secondary caring role for the people that are bringing them in, or we're trying to return the dogs to and give some humane education on how to prevent them coming back. There's so many layers to animal welfare. It gets really hard to keep going when you're like, I'm doing this every single day and I'm seeing these individual wins. I'm feeling these individual wins, but the bigger picture,
the problem isn't getting fixed.
It's disheartening.
Yeah. So that's a grind.
It is. And I really felt like I could do more from the outside than I could from the inside at that point. And so I kind of was like, well, I love behavior. I know what I'm doing. I luckily have a lot of resources I can rely on in the training community through other colleagues of mine who have left sheltering and started their own training companies. So I was very lucky in that regard to have I knew the path forward. I wasn't kind of stumbling in the dark for it. And so that's really why I wanted to start Black Dog. Outside of the personal reasons of wanting to own my own business and have more agency over my life and my pay and my emotional well-being and my time. And I really was like, there needs to be a resource, especially in Delaware, for people to have access to legit positive reinforcement, dog training through certified professionals that really does not exist to the extent that it should here. So I saw a problem and I was like, well, it kind of meets my needs and hopefully it meets the community needs. And obviously we own a business, we have to make revenue, but I really want to land the point that like, I want Black Dog to be, and I think it currently is, I'd like to get to the point more where it's more of like a community safety net.
Yeah.
We work with a lot of shelters and rescues to refer owners to us who may be at risk of needing to surrender an animal to the shelter. We do post-adoption discounts, even if the dog had no perceived problems in the shelter or at the rescue. We want to make sure that these dogs are landing in homes and they're staying there.
Yeah.
And that people don't feel like they're at a loss. Even the easiest dog adoption, it's stressful. There's a new animal in your house. And it's stressful for the animal too. And people's personalities are different. And their stress tolerance is different. And sometimes they just need like a handhold a little bit.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's a lot of cases, and we specialize in behavior modification for like more significant behavior concerns. But then there's obviously a lot of cases where we know for a fact this dog was returned already, or we've worked with this dog in the shelter. We do a lot of in-shelter consulting too, where we go into assessments. So we know for a fact this dog is like, might not stick, and that adopter is going to need a little extra support.
Yeah.
So I want Black Dog to be as much of a community safety net as we can.
Amazing.
That's for the public too, but it's also for our shelters and our rescues. I mean, after COVID, adoptions are at an all-time low. Fostering is at an all-time low. Surrenders are at an all-time high.
Why is that?
There's a lot of reasons. I mean, I think, again, I've always said animal welfare is a very useful framework and little magnifying glass microcosm to help inform you about what is going on in society at large.
Right.
So if we are seeing increased surrenders, we're seeing increased returns, we're seeing decrease in fostering, people may not be able to afford to take care of their animal. And I also, one of the other things I always say is like, people will cut a lot of expenses before they cut expenses for their kids and their dogs and their and their pets in general.
Right.
And that sometimes that's all that person has is their pet. And so a lot of things will go before they will try not
get to that point.
Get to that point of needing to rehome. And rehoming is not a bad thing. It's usually the worst day of someone's life. And there's a lot of bias and prejudice and judgment against it. So I think that when we're seeing these things, it means we need to take a bigger step back and ask like what is going on socially, what is going on economically, what is going on with people not being able to keep their homes? What is
Right.
going on with overdevelopment of cities that
Yeah.
the people
I mean,
who have
we're-
lived there can't afford to stay anymore?
Totally. We're seeing it. We have an increase of clients that are getting divorced.
Yep.
So very similar probably causes and, effects.
Yeah, it's a trickle down.
Yeah. It's
for
the same
sure.
concept.
Yeah. So, so that's, I could talk a lot about animal welfare,
Yeah.
But that is woven into a lot of what we do at Black Dog. Obviously, we do, our day to day is private training consults.
So I was just about to ask you. What do you do?
What do I do?
Yes.
Yeah. So I personally am not seeing clients anymore.
Right.
Which
is hard.
It was actually really hard, and I think I've eased myself into it.
Yes. Good.
And it's not a never thing, but I had to accept, as a
Big
business
picture.
owner, if I want the business to be self-sustaining, and
Yeah.
I like being a business owner. I like being a dog trainer. I really like being a business owner.
Right.
I can't be an employee for my business. I have to run my business.
This is like my
So
entire
hard. I
Instagram
know.
algorithm. Like you can't work in your business. You can't work on your business if you're working in your business. Like we're going through the same thing. We're getting ready to hire an assistant. We're looking to take some of those we'll call it $15 an hour tasks
Totally.
off of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's mentally difficult though. It's very difficult to give up that control.
That's
So
how
I commend you for that.
And there's obviously a lot of things that you like about that on the ground stuff. I love working with clients.
Right. Like Vincent loves meeting with first time home buyers and their budget's
Totally.
$200,000. I'm like, I know that it's rewarding, but you might not be the best person for that job. Yeah. So it's hard. I get it.
It's really hard to remove yourself from it. And so I'm finally at that point. So we're
4 years in, right? January was 4 years officially.
Yeah, we're 4 years in,
Ooh,
which is crazy.
Five will be big.
I know, crazy. We'll have to have a big party. So yeah, I think it's probably been about a solid 6 months where I've kind of had a clear client schedule.
Yep.
We have 5 independent contractors that provide training services through Black Dog.
Okay.
We have a facility in Wilmington, 207 Boxwood Road, over by Conrad.
Yep.
And we have a partner location, which I'm really excited about, and that's kind of our newest baby.
Nice.
With my friend who is the owner of Farmhouse Pet Lodge, which is a really, really nice boarding and daycare facility down in Georgetown.
Oh, cool.
So for summer trips, Rehoboth, Lewis,
Drop them off on the way.
It's really, really nice. It's a totally new building. It's on 9 acres.
Wow.
It backs up to a wooded trail.
Beautiful.
And we have our own training. It's our own training building.
Wow.
At the front of the property.
Cool.
So we now I have a manager at our Wilmington location, and I have a manager at our Georgetown
She's
location.
growing. Sheesh.
So it's really cool.
Obsessed. That's
I
very
know.
cool.
So cool. So we do, in the day-to-day, private consults. So any service that is not a group class, because we have a group class on the website, unless it's a specialty workshop, we do reactivity group class, which is one of our client favorites, I would say. Mm-hmm. That does need some prior training because it's for dogs who may struggle to be in a space with other dogs, and that's what the class is for.
Good.
But we want to make sure someone's not coming in blind to that. But for any other group class, puppies, basics, you just enroll on the website.
Easy.
We don't have any up right now, but we will in the coming weeks.
Nice.
Anything that's not a group class, you come in, you do a 1 hour consult, or we come to you, or we do it virtually, and then we kind of figure out what your needs are.
Yeah.
We do private one-on-one training, 1 hour sessions. You can do that again in-home virtually at our facility. We do specifically tailored puppy package sessions, which are still one-on-one training.
People need that.
But it's supposed to kind of capture those early months where I wish people would just work with their puppy and up to a year old, just be super consistent, work with a positive reinforcement
As
trainer.
a mother of 2, you got to start young.
You
Trust
have
me.
to.
I know they're different, but they're the same. It's the same concept.
Well, a lot of, our learning theory that we get for dogs as certified trainers, we draw it from
the same thing.
Behavioral science
it's the
and
same
psychology. Thing. And so, and actually I love working with kids. I worked with kids for a little while during one of my many worlds that I have my feet in.
Yes.
And I love working with parents, kids, and dogs. And there's a lot of really good resources out there for that besides us. But it is kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's
when their brains are spongy, they are new to this world. I just got here.
Consistency is key. Consistency is give an inch, they take a mile.
Totally. Well, and it's more they're new here.
Yes.
They just got here.
Yes.
We want them to feel happy about things and confident about things. And the world is stressful enough. We don't teach resilience to stress
Yeah.
by consistently creating that stress. We teach resilience to that by helping them get through it and not being the thing that causes them that fear, that stress, that anxiety. So we do puppy packages, and it's supposed to kind of cross, boundaries where we do sessions at the facility so that they're learning in a neutral space, having happy times in a neutral new space. We do some offsite sessions so we can translate, okay, now here's how this would look at home, or let's go to a park and let's talk about socialization. They get a drop into our puppy play group so we can talk about dog body language.
Puppy play group. I love that.
It's so good. We typically don't promote dog park usage. It creates more problems than not at large. Same thing with...
Especially in that beginning chapter.
Totally. Yeah. So we do a very small supervised puppy play group. We do adult play groups too. It's led by a trainer, and the people are there. And we're talking to you. It's very casual. We're just like, oh, that body language looks lovely, loose. That's really nice play. Let's take a break here. Okay, everybody takes a break. So we kind of like teach them how to...
It's like my kids at daycare.
Read and understand. It is. It really is. So private training, and then we do daycation, which is so fun. And that's one of our newest programs. It's kind of like an in-between of daycare and board and train. It's a little more affordable than traditional board and train where the dog stays permanently with us for a set amount of time. They drop the dog off a few days a week. They get 3 sessions a day. We typically have a few dogs at a time. We'll do play groups with them. They get off-site visits. They get office time with us. It's really fun, but it's not the traditional daycare setting where it's like a bunch of dogs in a room. They have 4 hours of over-arousal and overstimulation, and we tend to see a lot of behavior issues come from that. Dogs aren't pack animals, so those large group social settings are not usually beneficial to development. So we have we've kind of straddled those two worlds where we're working with the dog training wise, but we're also giving them breaks and we're giving them outlets and meeting their needs. And then we translate the information to the owner, which is always going to be the big piece.
Got it.
And then we're the only positive reinforcement.
So I was just about to ask you about that. I was just about to ask you so let's talk about the positive reinforcement. You are very unique in that regard. Are you
in this area particularly?
Particularly, is that the state of Delaware?
I would say the state of Delaware, yes. Philly has a lot of really excellent certified dog trainers, colleagues of mine at Philly area. So it's around here for sure.
Let's talk about what that means.
Yeah. So when we talk about positive reinforcement, and I think one of the hard things about navigating the dog training industry as a client or as a prospective client dog owner, there's a lot of information out there. In many ways, Instagram and TikTok has been useful in getting digestible, hopefully good information out to people in short clips. Obviously,
I learned how to breastfeed on TikTok.
People love free information.
Yes, I think there's positive sides of this, but there's negatives. Yes.
There's dangers to that. And I think especially in the last 5 years, I feel like society has shifted away from actually trusting real experts.
Yeah, totally.
And
totally agree.
Dog training is unregulated. And what that means, which is also, it's a good and a bad thing in ways. It means that there's not one governing body, essentially,
this is the only way.
Yes. But at the same time, it means that, which is, I think, kind of the common thread still in dog training, anyone can be a dog trainer, which has its benefits.
Right.
However, there are a lot of barriers to entry to dog training, which I'll try and touch on. But when you are looking for a dog trainer, what you hopefully want to look for is that there's letters behind their name.
Right. Which you have quite a few.
Yeah. And it's not the end all be all, right? Like a lot of that stuff is exams and studying. And obviously you want someone with the handling experience too. So the letters are not, okay, great, that's my trainer.
Right. Check the box.
But what it tells you, it's that first step into figuring out the trainer for you. It probably means that they are using humane techniques. We're not applying tools or handling, intense verbal corrections, prong collars, shock collars, choke chains, leash corrections, yelling, physical force, flipping the dog over on his back. We don't do any of that stuff. It's very outdated. Hopefully someone with letters behind their name is not doing that. And the reason for that is that we've studied behavior science.
Right.
And positive reinforcement is not exclusive to dogs. It's also not a new concept. It's been around for, it's been around a really long time.
Yeah.
And we, in order to keep our certifications, regardless of what organization they come from, and there's a couple like gold standard ones, I will say.
Yeah.
we have to commit to continuing education. We have to get recertified, usually every couple of years, but again, it depends on where you're certified through. And it means you're networking with other trainers with similar education backgrounds or similar certifications. And you're talking to each other, and we're exposing ourselves to new ideas, and we're challenging ourselves to grow, and we're not stagnating in well, this is always, this
Right.
is
It's how we've always done it.
always done,
Yeah.
always done it. So that's the biggest piece behind why certification really matters. And certification and positive reinforcement go hand in hand, because the education piece tells us that positive reinforcement is
And
the most
reiterates it
humane,
every 2-3 years whenever you're going.
an effective way. And there's new studies every year. Science is not perfect. That's the whole point of science, is that it should continue and evolve upon itself. But you know, we try our hardest to commit to that continuing education, and in doing so, hopefully provide the most humane and effective service to our clients.
Wow.
Like I said earlier, not be the reason that dogs are experiencing pain or fear or anxiety or stress and continuing to have issues or fallout in their home. Or someone hits a roadblock with that dog's behavior and they rehome it. So positive reinforcement is important. And like I said, it's not exclusive to dogs. It's not a species specific thing. It's all sentient things. If we can get zoo animals consenting to medical care through the use of positive reinforcement, we don't need to be using force, pain, and intimidation on our pets.
Yeah. And it's so crazy. Like, I'm not a dog person. I'm allergic to dogs.
And my dog loves to try and sit on her.
Oh, dogs,
he knows.
Dogs know that I'm allergic to them because they seek me out and they're always on me. And I'm like, there's 100 people in the room. How'd you know to come to me?
Yeah.
But what I relate to you on is via the children,
Yeah.
right? So whenever I talk to anyone about their animals, and especially someone that doesn't have kids yet, I'm like, they look at their animals the exact same way I look at my kids. And I know that. Like, I don't fight that. I don't like downplay that with them. So when I'm talking to people about their animals, I do relate on the kid world. And I do think there's this new generation of moms, especially the millennial mom, that's like, okay, like, you know, maybe I got spanked as a kid. Maybe I, you know, was brought up this certain way. Our generation's big on like understanding their feelings and like, hey, it's okay if you're mad. We can channel that energy into something positive.
Yeah.
You can't hit me, but you know, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel sad. Like, I think our generation was brought up in this world of like, you know, you're not allowed to, you go to your room, shut the door, right? Like that generation of parenting's done. So it's cool to see like, and hear you talk about your passion for positive reinforcement, because it's the same thing that we're seeing with children.
It is. And I was very much not raised that way.
Yeah.
And I will say, I consider myself a pretty tough person.
Yeah, you're tough as shit.
My dad died when I was very young.
Yeah.
He was sick my whole life. I was a competitive athlete. I was the top of my class. I mean, I own my own business. I started it during COVID. I lost all my money. And like, I didn't need my mom or my dad, who would have never done this in the first place. I didn't need them to be tough on me, to teach me to be tough. That wears people down over time. It teaches avoidance and it suppresses behavior. One of my really good friends and colleagues, Juliana, she owns a dog training company in DC. She loves to say, you can't do a don't. I love that saying, and it's really good for kids too. But essentially it's this, the more you correct and say no and no and no and no, you're not giving information on what to do. Instead, we get the illusion of improved behavior, because usually what happens is the learner starts to offer less, because they're like, well, I don't know what to do, and everything I'm offering
is wrong,
is not working. If you go to a new workout class and they're not saying, hey, shift your weight a little bit, feet hip width still a little too close, they're just saying no, 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 no. Maybe they're touching you and you're not someone who likes physical touch. You might not go back to that class.
Right.
You might not do that exercise style
Ever again.
Right. So you can't do a don't. And obviously there's this misconception around positive reinforcement training that it's permissive and it's soft. And I mean, that really just couldn't be further from the truth. I specialize specifically in dogs that have severe aggression, and I don't get bit by them because I know what I'm doing, and I'm not putting them in situations to elicit that behavior, because often it's coming from a place of pain, insecurity, fear. Not always. Sometimes they're quite happy and confident about aggressing.
Yeah.
But the key is, again, is management. So not allowing for the rehearsal of those behaviors in the first place. Same thing with kids. Giving limited options of choices. So we're increasing the rate or chance of success in the first place, and not correcting those errors, but just redirecting back to the opportunity to
That's
make
the word my daycare uses. Redirect,
interrupt,
redirect,
and
redirect.
reinforce.
Yes.
So, behavior that gets reinforced gets repeated. And so it's this kind of cookie trainer misconception that you guys use so much food and training.
Gentle parenting. That's from my world. It's the people that are like, oh, you're a gentle parent. Like people are highly against gentle parenting. And you're not a gentle parent. Yeah.
But also I am gentle. I'm not hitting the dogs. I'm not yelling at the dogs.
Right.
I'm setting them up for success, and I'm not putting them in situations yet that they can't handle so that I can tap into that failure. It doesn't work for people. It may work for some people and it may work for some dogs, but ethically speaking and scientifically speaking, it's just not the most effective, and you run the risk of more fallout than
in the future.
Than not. Right. So
like you said, it's a short-term game, but the long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the illusion. Yeah. It's the illusion of this fixed behavior. And I think, training, but working through behavior as a human going to therapy or a person taking their dog to a trainer, it's a lifelong thing.
Yeah.
We can't make guarantees. And I think trainers who do try to make guarantees, that's kind of like a red flag, because I can't guarantee you're going to listen to anything. It's like a therapist
saying they can fix your problems. Like,
I mean, I wish.
I wish.
I wish.
It will always be there deep down.
Totally. And I can't guarantee that you're going to even process what I'm saying.
Right.
Although as a dog trainer, our first skill needed is being able to educate people compassionately and tailor it to different people's learning needs. I can't guarantee that you're going to, even if you do understand it, work on anything, because guess what? Life gets in the way.
Yeah.
You have kids, you have work,
yeah.
You have contractors in your house, your family's annoying you.
Things happen.
And then a week goes by and you're like, you show up to your next session and you're like, I didn't do anything that you said. Okay, no big deal. Truly no big deal.
Right.
I can't guarantee that the dog's environment won't change in some way that causes a regression. So I can't guarantee these things. And I think that is a big misconception, is there's no such thing as a trained dog.
Right,
there's no endpoint.
This is a lifestyle. This is forever.
Totally. Even when we do, because puppies have different needs than senior dogs. And senior dogs don't stop learning. We love working with senior dogs.
That's like saying anyone wouldn't get a career change at 25.
Or 50.
Right, 50, start over. Like you can always
make a change. And
can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Not true.
Not true.
So not true. We use what works.
I use that all the time.
I know. A lot of people do, but it's not true. And now there's certain limitations physically that they might have. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be making them do repetitions of sit and down on their old hips, but we can do exercises to get them, moving their stiff joints. We can do breakfast walks where we're kind of walking around the neighborhood with them with their kibble to kind of get those, old bones moving.
With their kibble? Is that their...
Yeah, with their treats or their food.
Got it. Okay.
We can use... we can do mobility exercises. There's a lot of different things. But yes, dogs do not stop learning. People do not stop learning. Obviously, our brains change and our bodies change and our ability to retain information changes. But there's no end point.
Yeah.
And even when we do things like our board and train program, we're the only positive reinforcement board and train in, I'm pretty sure, the tri-state area.
Yeah.
Meaning they come to us for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Our facility at Black Dog is a house. So there's a little training space, storefront, but it's a 3-bedroom house. So we don't take a lot of dogs at a time. It's not a kennel environment. There's a pet camera in every room. They get a whole bedroom to themselves. If we only have one board and trained dog at a time, they get the whole house to themselves.
Right.
So it's very chill. It's as much, replicating a real home environment that we can. But we don't hand them back to you after 2 weeks and say, okay, all done, fixed.
Yeah, you're done.
We have to keep the owner education piece in play. We update the owners throughout. They get access to training videos, pictures. We do detailed training notes, and then we do multiple private sessions included in the package. So even with that, that's like a finite period of time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's not a one and done thing.
Okay, so I think this is a good, normally I ask people like, what's your favorite success story? I think this is a perfect time to kind of talk about Black Dog, how you got the name. I feel like that's probably one of your most rewarding success stories.
And my son.
Yes, your son.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell us about that.
My son whom I birthed. Spiritually, emotionally. So I actually think that naming your business is the hardest.
It's so hard. Ours is the Garment Group. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Lame.
And it's perfect. But, I have a couple of friends who, not necessarily in dog training, but they've maybe considered starting their own thing. And my advice has been, just through my own experience, and obviously everyone's different, that was my biggest roadblock to get past.
Wild.
All the other stuff, like I made my own website, I do all my own accounting, I do all my own social media, like the LLC piece.
That's the stuff you got to outsource.
Well, we're doing that now. Well, yes and no. I'm not seeing
there.
clients, so I can keep doing it and then figure out how
Got
to outsource it. But
I have a great bookkeeper. Let me know. She's amazing.
oh, thank you, please. The bookkeeping is, I would love to get that off my plate. But all that stuff, I was like, easy breezy. Like, yeah, what's starting a business? What, like it's hard?
Yeah, right.
And then I was like, what do I call it?
Yeah.
So like, I really went
This is before
around-
ChatGPT.
I don't use ChatGPT.
I'm obsessed. So.
No, no, thank you.
Robots.
Yeah, I'm scared of robots. I went around and around, and I finally landed on Black Dog. It was actually one of the first names that I thought of. Mm-hmm. It has a nice ring to it. I know that there's other companies, merch companies.
Sure.
Black Dog, whatever.
Right. There's other garments.
There's other garments.
Yes.
I don't know them. But I was like, it has a nice ring to it. My dog's black. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And statistically speaking, black dogs tend to be the most overlooked in shelters, particularly
Totally could see
black
that.
dogs who may have a pit bull
As a
type
golden
appearance.
retriever myself, I can imagine. Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
So, and black cats too, there's a lot of superstitions around that. So, and it just randomly so happens that a lot of the dogs I've really loved, my friends' dogs in life, and one of my favorite dogs growing up have all been black dogs.
Yeah.
So there's just kind of been that common thread.
And her name's Becca, so you got the bees going on.
Yeah, all the bees.
Yeah, obsessed.
Yeah.
It's a great name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my dog Opie is my logo, and he is an interesting story because I've had him since I worked in DC. He came into the shelter that I was talking about earlier. At the time, it was still Washington Humane Society. When I say open admissions, when it comes to animal welfare language, usually what that translates to is that an organization is not turning an animal away based on breed, size, age, medical need, behavior need, and they really kind of can't turn them away based on kennel space, but we're moving towards more of like a managed intake, hopefully broad scale practice where shelters not getting just like dumped and inundated with animals. But that's what I mean when I say open admissions. Oftentimes open admissions organizations will also have an animal control relationship of some sort, whether they have the animal control contract for that jurisdiction or they partner with a local jurisdiction, but usually those two things go hand in hand. It means you can take in strays from within your jurisdiction, any owner surrender. So Opie came into Washington Humane Society. He was called in as a stray to dispatch. He was in severe...
A stray, that means like running around amok, like alone.
Usually running... Stray is really just a dog or an animal outside with no owner.
Home. Yeah, no collar.
He was not running. He was nearly dead. Someone called him in an alley. He was severely injured. He was severely underweight. The Opie you see now is probably 70 pounds. He was in the low 50s.
Wow.
Severely injured. The officer actually, a friend of mine at the time, picked him up and did not think he was picking up a live dog. Until he got there. So
they thought he was dead.
Yes.
Wow.
And so they took him to the local emergency hospital, Friendship Animal Hospital. They're great. If you're in the DC area, can't recommend them enough. He got triaged and he ended up being intaked officially into the shelter. Now, a lot of jurisdictions will do something called a bite quarantine when he had clearly had bite wounds all over his body, and I won't go into graphic detail, but they were really severe. When we don't
from another dog,
yes,
okay,
we assumed it was severe, and it was probably multiple dogs. But most jurisdictions will do something called it's a bite of unknown origin. So essentially, if we don't know who bit you, we can't verify vaccination status. Dogs have to be on a bite quarantine. It used to be 6 months. And this is the crazy part, actually, and I'm so glad we've come so far in this way in animal welfare. Those dogs used to not be able to leave the kennel, and often we're just euthanized because we can't.
You don't have space. Yeah.
And so bite quarantine dogs were the first to go, and you don't know the circumstances.
And they might be totally fine.
You don't know what you don't know.
That's
and
so sad.
Yeah, so that we've come a long way. These animals often are able to be placed in foster homes now. Obviously, every jurisdiction is different. It's been decreased mostly to 4-month bite quarantines in a lot of places, and I can't speak for everywhere. So he was on a bite quarantine. He was healing in the kennel. He had drains, in multiple areas to prevent infections, and he needed a foster. And so I was like, as a staff member, I would rather take him as a foster because we don't know him. He's not feeling well, and we can't accurately assess behavior when pain and other medical conditions are at the forefront.
Right, we just do one thing at a time.
We have to make sure that the dog is feeling well. That's one of the key components of working with private, training too, is first and foremost medical welfare. We have to rule that out if there's anything that
it's like the first rule of sleep training with kids is like they can't be sick. Like they have to be 100% healthy.
It's not ethical to intervene behaviorally without the medical piece. You can do them together, but medical needs to come first if there's any suspicion. So we didn't know who he was going to be and how he was going to be. So he still needed to heal. I took him into a foster because I'm very, I've been exposed to humane euthanasia. I've done
into your Harry Potter closet, $500 a month.
Yes, and I've done a lot of euthanasias personally. It's a fact of life when you work in animal welfare. It's a fact of life when you work with private clients and are seeing aggression cases. Like euthanasia is called humane euthanasia for a reason. It's often the kindest choice you can make. I was more comfortable saying, if we get to the point where he heals and behaviorally he just is not safe, it's easier for me to bring him back and proceed with that than a volunteer foster. So I took him, fostered him, and, like in the beginning we said, my team at the time was probably doing 5,000 adoptions a year. I've done thousands upon thousands of adoptions personally.
Right.
I never felt like I was like giving away my dog. He also wasn't my first foster. He was my fourth or fifth foster.
Right, because how could you not? You're in this world. Of course, you're fostering all the time.
I was always like, oh, this dog is being so freaky in their kennel. I'll take him.
I'll take the crazy one.
Oh, there's a feral kitten that nobody can touch.
Sign me up.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
So I took Opie, and there was just something about him, and he was my dog. I never felt that way. Day in and day out, I'm like, there were dogs you get attached to, obviously, and there's dogs I remember from my first week.
Yeah.
I remember dogs from Ireland.
Yeah.
Still. And there was just something that anytime I showed him to a potential adopter, my gut felt
you
like
felt
twisty.
Sick. Yeah,
it was such a yucky feeling. So I was like, well, that's my dog. I have a dog now. Yeah. He definitely had a lot of behavior issues. Once he hit like the 3-month mark, past being pretty much healed. And I actually did think that he was not like behaviorally salvageable at one point.
Yeah.
And behavior euthanasia is a very complex topic, and I think there's a lot of really good support groups out there for it. It's another thing in our field that gets a lot of flack and judgment on the owner, and but there's so much that goes into it, and sometimes it is what we have to do. So I really had a moment or two where I was like,
this is it.
I'm gonna do my best, and we're gonna see. Again, we don't know what we don't know. And you would not know it now. I mean, literally. Kate said she was at my house on Saturday.
And he was like sniffing all up in my face. I'm like,
he
they
loves
always
a party.
know. They always know.
He lives for his hot girl walks around Trolley.
Oh, yeah. He walks past our office every day.
He loves to be perceived. He specifically really likes Logan House because one time a man pet him there and he's like, I'm going to go see
my spot. Yeah.
I'm going to see if that guy's still there. Anyone else want to say hi to me? No. My dog gets catcalled more than I do.
Obsessed.
He's great. So, I would say he's probably my greatest success story personally.
Most rewarding.
Yeah. And he's just like,
he's your BFF.
I did a lot of work, but also he just is who he is. He's just a cool dog. So he's my logo. He's the reason we have the name that we do. I have a really cool tattoo of him.
Obsessed.
So, yeah.
Obsessed. He's a cutie pie.
Yeah.
He's a cutie pie. So you've already kind of debunked some myths.
Yeah.
So 2 questions. One is, what's some like myths you want to debunk? And then 2, what's something you wish pet owners knew, or you wish like a PSA that you like, for us, I'm like, get off Zillow, right? Like you see my rants all the time. Like what would be like your rant?
I have to pick one rant. No.
It's hard.
I think I touched on the myths a little bit. There's no end point. There's no such thing as a trained dog.
Right.
And I wish that we could do something to just untwist the shame that people feel around needing to work with a trainer.
Asking for help.
Yes.
Asking for help.
And you don't need to wait until there is a problem. We don't want you to wait until there's a problem. If there's a problem, especially with clients that we see as puppies, and then often what happens is adolescence hits and our previous client reaches out and is like, this dog is really reactive now and he's biting at the leash, and we're like, did he just turn 2? How did you know?
Wait, that's the same with humans.
Literally,
it's
I'm telling you,
crazy. It's all the same.
But
it's all the same.
You know, I wish that people wouldn't wait until there's a problem. Start soon, because we're educating you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't live with you. We cannot move in with you.
Right.
Unless you want to pay me to. No.
Yeah.
We can't live with you. And like I said earlier, you have your own life to live. You learn differently than I learn, than the next person learns. And so if we're educating you, we're not only serving your relationship with your dog now, but hopefully relationships with dogs that you have in the future.
Yeah.
Whether you work with us or not, you move, you need help again, you know how to find a trainer you can trust.
Right. And you're empowered.
Totally. And there is so much shame around it, and there's a lot of avoidance, especially when there are problems.
Right.
Because people are like, I've put this off for so long. How did I let it get to this? It's a lot of like internal
guilt.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think that is one of the things that I want to impart the most.
The
is
pet
like,
mom guilt.
We're just a resource.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even we do consults for a reason. We don't require that you buy a training package off the rip. We want, come talk to us for an hour. Do a virtual consult. It's $100.
Yeah.
We need to talk to you, not the dog. Like we want to hear what you're struggling with and what you need and your questions. And sometimes just that initial touch point, it can release a lot of the pressure that people feel on. And
just like validate your
and
concerns.
be like, you know what? I do definitely think we need to do some sessions, or I do definitely think XYZ service would be a good thing to look into. Financially, a lot of people cannot immediately afford a package. We do also work with that because I don't want finances to be a barrier to people seeking training help. I also don't want finances to be a barrier for people trying to become trainers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, 1 hour, we give you a starting point. We say, hey, here's this list of resources. Give it a couple months. You know, we would love to see you right away, but we can at least get you in the right direction. Right. So don't wait and just talk to us. New dog, random questions.
Yeah. You're a resource.
No question.
Use us as a resource.
We're just a resource.
We're the same way with real estate. I'm like, even like, don't call us when the foreclosure sign's on your door. Like, call us when you start falling behind on your mortgage. What are my options? How can I get out of this? Right. Or like, you know, just don't wait till it gets to the point of unrepair. Because, you know, it's, you know, we can help you when it's those beginning stages, whether it's a puppy or whatever.
Speak to that, obviously, because, you know, Mary Kate and Vince and Cole and Jade and the whole crew,
squad.
The whole squad helped me buy Black Dog, you know, with the help of the Edge grant.
Amazing.
You know, you guys, I did not know what I was doing with real estate. I have my home, but commercial real estate is
totally
different.
And,
you guys are such a resource. I walk past their office, I poke my head, and I'm like, hello, I have a question.
Well, you're not shy. Most people are.
I'm like, hi guys.
Obsessed.
But yeah, we're just a resource, and it's part of building that relationship. Like, we have clients who don't necessarily need as much help anymore, but they're like, can we board our dog with
check
you?
in. We miss you guys.
Are we gonna have play groups soon? Look at this picture of Nellie doing so
love that.
like doing so well. Like, you know, we want to foster that relationship and that trust. And so if that's just based on a 1 hour conversation, great.
Right.
You know?
It's the same with us. You're a client for life, but
that's how we feel.
Maybe you buy a house with us and you're going to live in that house for the rest of your life. But like, we're going to check in with you. We want to know when you redid the kitchen. We want to know when you did the same as you, like, oh, they're progressing. Oh, things are going great. Like, we want to hear from you. We want to talk to you like that.
Or you're moving, or you're having a baby.
Yes.
Our
like,
clients
I want to know
I'm
that.
pregnant. What do I do? And we're like, oh my God, first of all, invite us to the baby shower. But we're like, great. Doesn't need a session, but thanks for checking in, and we'll give you some resources.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's what we're here for.
So I want people to know that about at least us as trainers.
Good.
Like, that's how we want to be.
Yes. Well, what would you like to leave us with? Anything else? Where can we follow you on Instagram, your website, anything you want to plug? Any events you have coming up, anything like that?
We can be followed on Instagram and Facebook at Black Dog Behavior and Training.
Yep.
It's blackdogbt.com. We don't really have anything super fun coming up. We'll be at Point to Point. We do that every year. Yeah.
We don't do that. Vincent every year is like, we need to go to Point to Point.
You should.
I'm like, I have so many other events happening at all times. It's
We'll
so
talk.
fun.
Yeah.
I've been before. It's so fun.
Yeah.
We just can't get to that one.
We set up a table.
Cute.
With the Humane Animal Partners, which is one of our local shelter partners here. We're there every year. So
amazing.
We'll be there. We have some really fun expansion down in Georgetown, like I mentioned, at Farmhouse Pet Lodge. That's kind of moving and grooving. Some fun projects coming up, hopefully launching an online mentorship program for aspiring dog trainers.
Cool.
yeah, so follow us if you need help. Like I said, even
Reach
if it's just
out.
a question, it's so easy to, you just go on our website, services page, book a consult. So
Done.
easy.
Done. Perfect. And you'll get right to her because she's the one running the show.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Becca. This was long overdue. I'm so glad we got to sit down and learn so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hit her up for all your dog needs. And even if you needed a recommendation for cats, or I'm sure you guys have great recommendations.
Yeah.
So thank you all for tuning in. Another awesome episode of Life on the App. We'll see you next week.